Okay, so the bigger one was too big. Most likely the reason for that is, which they should put both size plugs in there, just in case if this kit is made for multiple carburetors. You know, in their mind, what they think is, oh, well, they can just file it down some. And then we can call it, you know, compatible. Anyway, I filed it down to where it'll get in there. And I'm just going to use the other side of this screw for this one, because this is a bit bigger plug. So these things are really, really soft, so you don't have to do a whole lot to them. That right there is perfect. But from where they are so soft, that makes it much better to work with. Give you a little bit more confidence too of it, everything pushing in the edges really well. Yep, so those should be good and sealed up. So those are our Welch plugs. I guess now let's do the screws next. I just wanted to remind you that these Welch plugs was from that cheap set. So more power to not get cheap stuff, you know. So, I wanted to point out too, the Skinner filter, and along with a lot of other filters too, when you clean them, you know, naturally the motor sucks and it's pulling in air this way. So the air is going in this way in the air filter. When you clean them, blow the opposite way the air is running when the machine's running. So blow, you know, in here out, and the here out that way. And always don't forget to oil. You know, I oil a lot of my filters in you know, chainsaws and lawnmowers. I guess there's only specific ones you're supposed to do it with. You know, the sponges, stuff like that, I'll definitely oil them. WD-40 is something you could use, and you want to get out the excess after you oil them. Take air to it and get the big oil out of it. Air, you know, compressed air. This one I just the reason for WD-40, there's probably special oils you buy, but I just had something that laying around. It's, you know, WD stands for water displacement, so probably not a bad idea. Or something that doesn't evaporate, something that's going to stay in for a while after you clean them out real good. And I just took brake clean. I soaked it real good, and I blew from inside out. A lot of people won't do that because of the brake clean can, you know, mess stuff up. It can, you know, some people just like to use soap and water and then blow from the inside out real good and then oil them. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that to you about the filter and the cheap parts. Okay, I know you guys are waiting on me to do the high and low screws, but I keep talking about stuff, but I want to make sure I add things. So another thing I wanted to mention, when you clean these things, there's a lot of ways that you can clean all these orifices. And after you take everything down, probably the best way, you know, you can do the brake cleaner or starting fluid and compressed air thing. But also after you do that, or a lot of people don't even do that, but use a jewelry cleaner. They call it an ultrasonic cleaner. There's videos all over the internet over it too. You just put it down in like a little container. Usually it has a basket. You put some kind of cleaning solution in it, and you turn it on, and it, you know, it's microsonic vibration, little tiny pulses that run through it constantly really fast and clean out all your orifices. And then of course you take it out and take more compressed air to it. And myself, I always make sure I run brake cleaner and stuff through everything. Yeah, a lot of people do that whenever they're doing carburetors. So that also too, these real tiny small holes, sometimes people will take, like, you know, they'll take their wire brush and take a little piece of the wire off, or you can get them one filler gauges that's got the wires on them. You know, just make sure you don't score and mess up any of the channels and stuff in there. You know, if you run wire through it, usually if you can blow through a hole, then you usually can tell if a hole is clear or not, but you know, not always. So so that big hole in the carb that was talking about in that video with that balloon thing, I don't know. You know, there's definitely a check ball valve down in there. And you want to check that. You can blow in here and tilt it one way and then tilt it the other. You can tell if it's working or not, but usually after you clean it, you can see it down there and roll it around and see it. But he speaks of the big hole is what he says. So this is the biggest hole in this area when you take this off. But there's also this, orifice. I don't think he was talking about that. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of holes, but I mean, I'm assuming this would be the big hole, and that thing must be down in there somewhere to where you can't see it. I don't know. You just maybe have to go in on that video that I showed you on that, guys, about that one, because I did not see anything that would reference a balloon valve. And, oh yeah, when I put this Welch plug in a while ago, I removed this nut, just in case if you didn't notice that. So from this point, we are now going to put these low and highs in. So, and I'm going to give you kind of an update on this, the way to install this. I would definitely put the rubber in first. We're going to do the low side first. You know, this is from that cheap set that I had. So I'll put that down in there. And oh, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put some type of lube on these things. You know, I guess the best thing would be just to use 2-cycle oil, because that's what, you know, is mixed with. You don't want to soak it down in there, but then you can get you something to help you seat it. This, you know, for this, I'm using a drill bit here. This drill bit fits down in this hole real well. So, and this drill bit is a 1/4 inch, I think, and that got that seated down into there very nicely. Now I put my washer on my screw. That's how I'm going to do it. Put the washer on the screw like that. I'm going to hold it up. I'm going to turn the carburetor sideways and put the screw, or like this, you know, and then put the screw straight in from upside down lock. That way I know everything is going to go in there as it should. And then I'll tighten it down till it doesn't really go no more. Just like that, by hand. You know, don't want to force it. You know, don't force anything. Once it screws so far, you know, that's about it. And then you do the same thing with the high side. I'm going to go ahead and do the high side. I'll be right back. Just wanted to show you real quick this, which I've already put the low side in, but this is the high side. It's the one it's just straight and pointy. That's the high side. You don't want to get them mixed up. Put them in correctly. Be right back with you after I get this in. Okay, so I got them in, but once you get them in, you want to take a screwdriver and put them all the way in. You know, I mean, you can take them so far in with your finger, but you want to feel where that bottom's out at. You know, just kind of take them out and then take them in. Your first initial time, you know, you might feel them maneuver a little bit in there, but don't do it too tight. You know, you'll bust it in there. Just find out where the bottom is. Move them in and out a couple times to let all that kind of work itself out in there and seat properly. So a while ago, I know whenever people are explaining on how to adjust the screws whenever they're taking things apart, especially, it can be confusing. So I'm going to go over that again real fast. Let's say you buy a saw, okay? Or just, you know, anything that has screw adjustments to them, right? And you buy the saw and it runs good. So you know that that carburetor is adjusted well. And you want to take it apart. And you're going to have to take the screws out of it. Okay, so at that point, you know that the carburetor is adjusted well. So what you want to do is you want to find out how far and where this adjustment is on them screws. So right where it sits at, we're going to imagine that this is where this carburetor was running good at, okay, when we bought it. Step one, go to your screw, and you're going to, well, this is the high side. We'll just start with this one, whichever one you want to start with. You're going to screw this all the way in, but you got to count how many turns it is that you go in. So naturally, you know, you've never touched this screw before. You know this screw is adjusted well. So you start it and you count it as you turn it in, okay? And you watch me, okay? There's a half. There's a turn. Now we're going to go slow from here because usually a turn and a half, about in there somewhere. So that was a turn. Okay. So that was about a turn and a quarter is what that was. So we know that when we rebuild this, to bring it out a turn and a quarter to put it right back where it was before, especially if we're using the same innards, you know, the guts in here, the washer and the rubber that's in there, the rubber or the rubber O-ring. And you do the other thing with the other screw. But naturally, if you're replacing it like here, if I wanted to, whenever I took this saw apart, if I wanted to know right where the adjustments was, I would count them and do the same thing, you know, as I come out. But naturally, from where I'm changing the O-ring and the washer that's in there, the turn could be a little off. So rule of thumb, usually what people will do whenever they're doing a carburetor rebuild is they'll screw both screws in. And you can see that that's bottomed out. You know what I mean? I'm not going to force any more than that. See, that's loose, and then the screw stops right there. I'm not going to force it no more than that. I know that's bottomed out. I don't want to ruin the insides. And I'll take, after they're both bottomed out, I'll take them out a turn and a half. There's a half. There's a turn. There's a turn and a half. Do the same thing here. Half, turn, turn and a half. That's a starting point. You know, that's a good place to start. You put it on your saw, you start it up, let it warm up really well or fairly well. Make sure your choke is off. You know, while it's idling, you adjust your low side to get it correct. You know, and you also, sometimes they'll have a regular idle screw, which is this one. You know, because right here's your butterfly. You know, one bow, one bow, one bow. You can adjust this right here for your idling. So sometimes you got to fiddle with these two to get right how it needs to be, you know. Turn and a half is where a good start though. And then to do your high side, pretty much hold it wide open. While it's wide open, then you adjust this. Usually you want them to crack and pop just a tiny bit, but that depends on what you're going to be cutting, you know, what you're using. You know, sometimes atmospheric pressure matters as far as like how high your sea level is. There's just all kinds of things to take into consideration. You just kind of fill it out for whatever job and however you want it to run according to. So a lot of variation in that. Just wanted to give you the main meat and potatoes of it. You know, like I said, the internet's plumb full of it. All right. So now that we got them in, heck, let's go ahead and we'll do the needle and seat. Be right back. All right, so here's our needle and seat we're going to use. This is the good one, Tecumseh. There's your part number, 630932. A as in apple. Again, this is just the needle and seat. So to start out, we're going to put our little rubber in there. And this rubber, you can see there, that ring is on this side, and then this side is completely flat. So the ring side goes in the hole first. So basically, after you insert this into this hole, you're going to see that ring on this side. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. If you get the tool, which you don't have to have this, y'all. If you get the tool, I showed you the part number to it earlier. You put it on the end of the tool like that. You see this ring right here. You see the ring here. It's on this side. Okay. So the part without the ring is this side. Okay. See there, what you're looking at is without the ring. You would take this tool and stick it in like that. All right. And then when you flip it back over, that's the side with the ring in the rubber. The ring in the rubber goes into this brass piece. So it goes into here, and press it up in there. You can also use hang on a second, that's not going in too well. There we go. You can also use a drill bit to do this. This one here. You can use this drill bit. This is I think 5/16 drill bit, or 3/16, I believe. Let me see. Hang on a second. Let me make sure. Well, this one's at 11/64 is what I'm using, but a 3/16 might work. Anyway, just something to the same circumference, you know, as that little hole right there, and you take and shove it on up in there. But of course you can use this tool also. It doesn't really matter. Either way, you just want to make sure that rubber's up in there. You might want to put you a little bit of WD-40 on it before you stick it up in there. But I'll be right back. Okay, now my light's not on the camera, so, but you shouldn't need it for what we're doing here. So next, what you want to do is you want to get your needle. And I've noticed a lot of times when these needles come out of you know, how it was put together at factory, these tips are bent over a little bit. I've noticed that a lot. Anyway, right here's your seat. Okay, there's the side where you can see the ring of the rubber. Here's the side that you stuck it in at. Your tiny end of the needle, see, you can see it there. Here's the tiny side, goes down in first. It goes through that little rubber piece underneath and sticks out the top. And you can see it sticking out the top there a little bit. Now, put your spring on the back side of the needle. On there, doesn't matter which way the spring goes on. And what I'm going to do, rather than doing like I said earlier, putting the washer down inside of the carburetor, you can put this washer right on the seat. It goes over the spring, and there's a little piece right there it slides over right there. And you just put it, you know, seat it on down. And you hold this, everything like this. Hold her like that. Take your carburetor, you know, which you guys are seeing the top, but to me this is upside down. But you hold it upside down, then you stick that needle and seat up in there, and then you thread it in. And just be easy with it, and thread it all the way as far as you can by hand. Take your tips of your fingers or your fingernails to get it on in there. And you fill it with your hand. Right there, okay, that's bottomed out. Now you can check your little needle there, see if it's coming up and down, and it is, it's working, that spring's working. Now I'm going to tighten that down a little bit with my pliers. I'll be right back. Okay, it's plenty tight enough. Now you want to check to make sure that you didn't bend that needle. That's probably why that thing's bent. People putting them in and taking them out. A lot of times when I was saying I've seen a lot of them bent, what you do is you take and push it up and down and then look at it all the way around and make sure that it's still straight up and down and not bent sideways. And that's how you do that. Make sure she's not bent or nothing. Okay, so that should do that. And next we're going to do the diaphragm and the gasket. I'll be right back. Okay, now these diaphragms, here's your part number. This is just the diaphragm. Like I said, I've showed you all that, but just the gasket and diaphragm is the 630932A. Or no, I'm sorry. Lord, that's the needle and seat. The diaphragm is 630978. You get two pieces. You get the diaphragm and you get the gasket. Now, on these carburetors, there can be two different styles. Okay, here's the top of it. Here's the choke. If you look at it at the end with the choke, underneath the intake there, you see this part. If there's an F here, okay, how can I explain that? Okay, see how this carburetor's laying like this? If there's an F here, which I think the F is for the 4-stroke engines. Naturally, for this saw, there is no F. But if there's an F here, the diaphragm goes on first with this piece up, like I said, the ridge side up. Not this piece, but this piece up. And the cheaper ones have that little disc. Okay, and you got to be careful with the cheaper ones, because what happens is the center of this diaphragm right here is what maneuvers that needle. And if the height is wrong on it, it's really not going to run. So anyway, this is to comes apart. We know that the height of this centerpiece right there is correct. If it has an F, this goes on first, then your gasket, then your plate. Okay, this is not an F carburetor, so the gasket goes on first, then your diaphragm. Okay, so I was showing that wrong. You want this disc piece, I'm sorry, this disc piece goes down toward the seat. So Gasket goes on first on the ones without the F, which is the one that we are doing for the 2-stroke. You know, David Bradley saw this specific saw, this carburetor. Gasket goes on first. Then the diaphragm, you want this to go down. And you put that on second. And you put this on. Now don't forget, we had this little piece here. So I'm going to put this on first and put 2 screws on. And then I'll be right back. Okay, I had them 2 screws backwards, but your plate goes on this side, the side where your adjuster screws are, your high and low. So you want to put the 2 screws first on the opposite side of your adjuster screws. Then you put your plate on, and this plate, you see the little hook right there, how that hooks up? That hook goes up toward your screws. So you can see it there, that goes on the carburetor this way. And then you just put your 2 screws in there, and I'll be right back. All right, everybody. That is the meat and potatoes of this thing. I'm going to go ahead and put my Skinner filter on. I'll take that screw off. Put the filter on. Put the filter cover on. Add my screw in there. And I'll tighten her down. And from this point, I will put these all the way in, take them out a turn and a half, and it will be ready to put on and adjust. And that will conclude the carburetor. See you in a second. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. I have torn down everything as far as I'm going to. That is the entire saw. Most likely the next time you see all this, it'll be cleaned and painted. I don't know if I'm going to show any of that or not. Probably clean most of it with just a tub of gasoline. You know, not everything. Some things I'll have to tape up with the orifices, and naturally I'm not going to stick that in gas, but I'm going to clean everything. And you know, when you paint like that, you clean it real good and get all the oil off of it with something, you know, alcohol or soap and water, but you want all the oil residue off. And you rough the surface just a little bit with something, you know, not too much. And you can prime it and paint it, or you can just paint it, or however you want to do it. And from here, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'll be cleaning and painting. See you soon. All right, everybody, I got her painting here. I figured I'd go over a little bit more detail and things with some of the painting and preparing and cleaning and stuff to maybe help some people out. So when you paint, you got to have your place to paint naturally. So what I've done here is I've got me some string, and I just hang it from the rafters, and ever so far down I put me a loop in it. I actually made a bunch of loops in mine because I'll be using it for future projects. And then I keep me a little clip at the bottom, and then I just take a piece of metal wiring or whatever and attach one end to the object I'm painting, and then choose me a loop, and then the excess underneath the loop I'll just hold up and pin up with that little bobby pin there. And right here is the metal wire that I use, just any kind of metal wire. And of course I tape everything off with frog tape. That's the good stuff as far as masking tape goes. I probably went overboard, but that's what I use to mask off. You know, you don't want to get your threads and things like that, and stay out of your places where your bearings are going to be, and places where you're not going to have that are going to be exposed, or especially if it's going to be cased in oil or anything you don't want to get. You know, just be prepared for that stuff. You know, there might be places that you have to do a little bit of extra work to. Me, I just cleaned everything with gas in a tub, and then I wiped it off Well, first I took a greeny weenie to it, which roughs the surface and cleans it. Then I took this to it, and this will remove any oil from the gases, or any oil that got on there, and that'll make the paint stick. There's other things you can use too, but that's what I did to prep and prepare with. And I've already started painting, as you can see, but I ran out of paint, so I had to go get me some more. But she's coming along. Got that piece of going. Here's the tank. Tank's looking good. It's gonna be good when I get it done. The cap, the oil cap is the same color as the tank, so I screwed it on. But for the gas cap, I taped it off. Actually, this is all taped off. You just can't see it. The threads where the gas cap's going to go, I taped off, and I taped off the plunger, and the fittings. But to each their own on how they do it. I taped off the handle over here on the starter. I'm painting the starter up. Oh, you want to be careful too. You might want to protect that piece of rope right there, because now when that pulls, it'll probably be silver. Some places on yours, you might be different. On mine, I've got a crack on mine, so I went and got some Bondo that I may fix that. I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm going to or not. Here's some of the stuff that I've been using. I think I've already showed this, but right here's that's the color I'm using for the gray part. And then here's what I'm using for the orange part. Yep. And this is what I took to the little tag here to kind of liven it up a little bit. It's a polyurethane clear gloss that I'm using. Yeah. And it is oil based. Oh, and when you do your screws and your bolts and stuff, get you a drill bit and drill you a hole and then stick them in. Piece of cardboard, it keeps it from getting all over your threads. Plus you can hold it. Neat little trick. Works well. My uncle actually taught me that. But I'm gonna finish painting it. Oh, and the bar, I took the bar in. I'm gonna go talk to a guy tomorrow, the person that's gonna be airbrushing it for me. So next time you see the video open up, hopefully it'll be putting this all together. See you soon. All right, so I just wanted to show you real quick on these gaskets on what I did for these two. So originally I kind of had these, I didn't really know exactly how they went, if you remember, because I had come to the conclusion that this one had went to the gas because it's hard, and this one's soft. So you would think that would be the oil cap. But if this was the gas cap, it would go down in here, but there's a hole right there. And this doesn't have a hole anywhere in that vicinity. Same thing with this right here. This one, I think, went to the oil, but the thing of it is the oil has the hole in the middle, and that one was on the side. So it was almost like this one went to the fuel cap, but it couldn't because there's no hole in the middle of the gasket, and there's that thing in there. You can see it raised up there. So I just made my own. I made one like this for the gas and put a hole in it, as you can see there. And then I made one like this for the oil and put a hole in the center of it, as you can see there. And all I did was use just Velcro gasket. That's all that is just Velcro gasket. Just a sheet of gasket. There's your part number if you need it. And I just laid it out, and I took a Sharpie. I laid it out, took a Sharpie, went around it, cut it out. Same thing with this one, except for the inside, I used a razor blade to cut it out. And for the holes, I just used a drill bit, to make my holes with. And I believe this one was 7/16. Actually, I used the 3/32, and then I kind of honed it out or wallered it out, whatever you want to say. But just wanted to update you on that, and explain how I did that in case if anybody was wondering. That's how I did it. See you in a second. Okay, so here's everything cleaned up. Getting ready to put her all together. Painted. I took this piece off of here, that orange piece, and painted it orange. And I painted that there orange. The nut that holds that back plating onto the Skinner filter. I've already put this piece on. Looks really good. David Bradley. Yep. I'm gonna put her together. The next video, everything you see here is everything except for the bar. And oh yeah, there's the color things. They come out fairly close. This is a little bit darker than this, but it shall do. Yep. There's one thing. Oh, so everything is just completely opposite of what it was of whenever we took everything apart. This I want to point out right here. There was a section in the video where I kind of misexplained this. I'll have to go back and fix that. But when you pull this off, just kind of take note of where, you know, these, you know, where it's positioned before you loosen, you know, this nut right here. Just kind of get a general idea of where it's at. You want it to pretty much go back in the same place. I mean, you can have it turned a little bit and it, you know, it'll stay in time because, you know, all it is the inside, the magnet inside of here just passes through here. So, but anyway, I wanted to kind of mention that whenever you take this off, just kind of make you a little mark somewhere to remind yourself of how to put that back on. You know, fairly close. You know, pretty much the same spot it was when it come off. It don't have to be identical, exact down to like the millimeter and all that, but you do want it, you know, about where it was. So the next time you see this video, hopefully that saw will be sitting on that yellow towel. Put together, all except for the bar. I'll be going today to talk to the gentleman about doing the bar for me. See you in just a second. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here she be in all her glory. All put together, and it does have spark. I took the blade today. Had a spill and talk with the guy. So here within a couple weeks, maybe even within a week, I'll have the blade to her. She got spark, she's got compression. And I know everybody's gonna want me to start it. And I'm sorry, you guys, but I don't want to put gas in this thing unless my grandfather, which is the person I'm rebuilding it for, asked me to start it. No, everybody wants to see it run and cut, but I'm not going to do that unless my grandfather asked me. I'm sorry. But here's the saw. I'll show you that it sparks real quick. I'll be right back. All right, and that is one of the original plugs. It's the old green one. I don't know if you guys seen it or not, but check her out. Might get a better angle if I turn it this way for you. Get more of a color out of it. Maybe, I don't know. Oh, yeah. That's a nice strong spark too. Good coil. All right, you guys, she's just sparking. Got compression. Got spark, got timing, and we know it's going to have fuel, so it will run. And if my grandfather asked me to run it, I'll try and get a short clip of it before I make the video, but we'll see. And I'm probably not going to be able to get video of me giving it to my grandfather either, but I may be able to get I'll definitely get some pictures and post up with it. So, good to go. David Bradley chainsaw, restored, alive again. See ya. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I finally received the bar. Took a little longer than expected. The gentleman that did it for me had some complications, but I do have it. It is completed. As I was explaining to you, it's about my grandfather's career that he had, hormone development. There's the Indian I was telling you about with the headdress, which that looks a little different than some of it, but there are multiple headdresses, so, or, you know, symbols of this, so that looks good. There's the cardinal. And that looks really good. He done a really good job on the Indian. And then, of course, the other side, as I was saying, with the dozer pushing the coal with his name, and then the bluebird and the blackbird. That is the bar. So I'll try and get some pictures whenever I present it to him. He's really gonna like it. Yeah, man. Boy. Boy. There was a guy that just lives up the road from my grandfather. Everybody called him Doc. He worked on chainsaws and stuff, and he'd have a big pokebacker in his jaw, and he'd take and siphon that gas and sell gas to people out of jugs, and he'd say, boy. He'd say, boy. All right, everyone, if you're watching this, you're watching the end of the final part of the David Bradley Restore series. This is the end of it. I did not get to get pictures or videos of the saw with my grandfather, sorry. So we're not going to get to see it run. He did not want to see it run. So there was no pictures or video taken. But in rescue of that, for not getting to see pictures of it or seeing the saw run, look what I've got. This is a saw that my grandfather's dad had. So the saw that I just built for my grandfather, his dad owned this saw. And my papaw that I just built the saw for gave me this saw. So it was his dad's, you know, my papaw's dad's. And it's a home lot. And this saw I'm going to redo, but it's not going to be anything like the David Bradley. And this baby, we can run and we can cut. It's mine. So I'm going to make it to where I can use it when I want, but I am going to redo it. Get new decals for it. Get a carb kit put on it and to go through it and check it out. So hopefully you guys are enjoying all this stuff. This is going to be the next video. Thank you guys for checking everything out. I hope the video is really helping you with the David Bradley. And all you chainsaw people out there, we got us a doozy to go through here. I'm going to start her. It'll be in the next video. Thank you again.
Hee hee hee. bucket man. If you don't like